welcome in to the NFL Week 12 preview show with Uncle Phil. I'm your host, Matt, and I'll be filling in for Sticks today. It's not present. Uncle Phil, how are you doing today?
Good, man. Hey, thanks for stepping in. Glad to have you. Sticks had some work obligations tonight, so appreciate you stepping in relief. So it's good to have you here, man. Yeah, I'm doing good, man. Look, this is the time of season for those who've been following me for a while that I heat up. I mean, it's around Thanksgiving. It is typically when I start crushing it, and it's because I know the teams really well, and this year's been true to form, and I'm starting a little early this year, so a little bonus money for the people this year, so that's good.
Definitely, it's definitely been the case historically around this time. That's when you really start heating up. So it's good to see a lot of these wins coming in, and man, last week was massive. So hats off.
It's been good. I mean, look, it's really been an entire year for me this year. I've had a really good year this year. Some people, I don't know if they subscribe to or ever look at VSiN, the Vega Insider Sports Network, but they do an Average Joe contest every year, and they do. And this one, you don't have to even pay to enter. You just enter it. But it's typically about, I think this year it's around 3,500 of the top handicappers or people who, the average Joes out there that want to do this. And so right now I'm in the top 25 for that. So crushing it there, and it's really been a yearly deal. So excited about that. And out of anybody in the top 100, you also do your best bets. I've got the best bet ratio of anybody there. So look, for me, this year's been I put in a lot of work, but look, it's paying off for me and for the people. So that's a good thing.
Definitely. All righty. Well, what do you say, Uncle Phil? Let's jump right in. A lot of good games this week. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, let's get after it. First game we're looking at is Thursday night's game, of course. We're looking at Houston or Buffalo at Houston. For this game, my guess on this one, do you have the lines?
I have the lines, yeah.
Okay, good. My guess on this one, I think I'm a little low, but I think that there's some reasons why I think this, and I might think I'm right. I took Buffalo plus 3.5, and I took a total of 43.5.
Okay. As of right now, I'm sourcing the odds from Action Network. It's Houston plus 6, and the total is 43.5. So right on the money on the total, and plus 6. It might have opened at 3.5. So right within range there.
Yeah, look, I mean, it'd be an interesting game. Buffalo's got some injuries. Obviously, Dalton Kincaid was ruled out today. They've got I feel like they've got like 3 pass catchers got ruled out today for Buffalo. Let's see, Bills injury report. This is that are going to be out for the game. So you've got Dalton Kincaid's out. You got Mecole Hardman out, and you got Curtis Samuel. So you've got 3 pass catchers doing that, and all that just means is more on Josh Allen's plate, right? He's got to be Superman again. And Buffalo has just got a horrendous rush defense. And it's certainly their Achilles heel, and probably what will eventually cost them in the playoffs. If they make it, they've got some tough games coming up, but I think that they will. They should, but they've, of all of the number 1 seeds from last year, they had the easiest schedule this year, so they should make it. And but that run defense is really bad. Ed Oliver out has made it even worse. That's a problem for them. Any teams that use motion when they run is a problem because Buffalo's linebackers they kind of move and kind of instead of keeping gap integrity there, they kind of bunch up and which ends up opening up gaps for running backs. So it's a tough situation there. Houston, obviously, you got Davis Mills. That's certainly the large spread. But, I mean, you've got, again, if the line is set right now for 6, that means 9. That means 12 at home versus Houston. I mean, this is, again, C.J. Stroud's out, Davis Mills. I don't know. It's just hard for me to get up that many points with Buffalo with their run defense being what it is. So we'll see. I may feel differently tomorrow, but that's kind of how I kind of look at it right now. We'll see how it goes from there.
Yeah, agreed. Houston's got a great defense. And, yeah, Davis Mills is the question mark. I mean, he's not great.
No, he's not. I mean, look, it really comes down to this one thing. I mean, certainly the rush defense is a fatal flaw, but, in Buffalo's 7 wins, Josh Allen has 10 rushing touchdowns. In Buffalo's 3 losses, Josh Allen has no rushing touchdowns. If Josh Allen doesn't rush for a touchdown, then it makes it tough for Buffalo to score. And certainly tough for them to cover, and not in cover, but even win straight up. So we'll certainly keep an eye on that. It'll be something to watch in this game. But it'll be an interesting game. Should be a fun game tomorrow night. I think this one will be a close game, at least early.
Alrighty, what's up next?
Yeah, the next one I've got is the Jets at Baltimore. I think it's an interesting game. I've got this one pegged at 12.5, and I've got a total at 46.5.
Okay, current odds, it's 13.5 Baltimore, and the total's 44.5.
44.5. Okay. For me, interesting thing, tons of people showed up on the injury list or injury report today for Baltimore. Something everybody needs to watch out for. That one's going to be interesting. And Lamar again did not practice on Wednesday. This is becoming kind of a trend with him. But in his injury designation day, it was not his hamstring, which obviously put him out for a while. And on the injured reserve, this one was his ankle. So this is a new injury. His 2 games that he's played against Miami and against Cleveland, he has not looked like the same, and the offense has not looked like the same either. He has either missed throws, not seeing people the way he usually does, not pulling the trigger the way he usually does on passes, on routes that are clearly there. It's interesting what's happening here. Obviously, the Jets are going to be starting Tyrod Taylor. What do you think Tyrod Taylor will do for that Jets offense?
I feel like he's not going to put up a lot of points. There's a stat I saw. I don't recall exactly what it was off the top of my head, but it seems like a lot of his games go under. Mm-hmm. I think maybe you're the one that told me that when he's starting at quarterback. So,
yeah.
But, yeah, I think there's some more control with his game than Fields. I mean, you never know what Justin Fields is going to show up. So,
yeah, it's a good point. And, you kind of look at the under a little bit just because, Garrett Wilson's out. Who's he going to throw to?
Johnny Mitchell, who, can't catch.
Right. So you kind of wonder what that is. That being said, when Lamar plays, Baltimore averages 29 points a game. And if he's doing that, maybe Tyrod gets lucky and slings it. Pass total's probably going to be there. I don't know that I would lean toward the under. We'll see how that works out on that one, but I would kind of I think this could be a more interesting game than people think it could be. But we'll see. I mean, there's a lot of like injury reports, a lot more information to come out before the end. But man, just as I was guessing the lines, I felt like there's going to be a lot of high lines, high spreads in this one, and I think there's going to be some people that are going to be. I think this could be a knockout weekend because again, there's some teams here that are playing this week that have a short turnaround because there is going to be 3 games on Thursday and 3 games on Friday next week. So teams are going to be making Thanksgiving plans, and there's very few teams that are going to have their routine schedule this week. And I think those teams, that could kind of stir things up this week. And I think those are some really watch out games this week.
Definitely. All righty. What do you got next?
Next, I've got Pittsburgh at Chicago. Pittsburgh 6-4, Chicago 7-3. Certainly, the big variable with Pittsburgh is Aaron Rodgers, if he's going to play or not. He's got a fracture or a hairline fracture in his non-throwing arm, so his left arm, wrist area. Interesting enough, he had the exact same injury when he played for Cal, and he played through it. He'd keep a cast on during the week, cut it off, have a brace on it during the game, played during the game, put a cast on again, and it was kind of, it takes a while to heal when you're doing that, but kind of did that routine the entire time. And he would practice handing off. He was, handing off to Marshawn Lynch at the time, right, at Cal. And so he would practice handing off with a different arm so that wouldn't get injured. So he's done this before. I'd certainly look for him to give it a go. But again, he's not 21 again. Now he's double that age. He's at 42. So we'll see if that can happen. Chicago living dangerously, but scraping by every time, and make no mistake about that, that's Ben Johnson induced. What are your thoughts on Ben Johnson?
I think Ben Johnson's great. He's a winner. Look what he did at Detroit, and now he takes over for Eberflus, and he's got the Bears at 7-3. But it's not like they're a 7-3, from the eye test, but they still are 7-3.
Yeah.
So I like Ben Johnson, and Caleb looks a lot better under Ben Johnson than he did last year. So,
yeah. I mean, his sack numbers have come way down, and he's put the team in position. Like, the defense is better, special teams is good, and certainly the offense is doing a lot better. Ben Johnson certainly made a lot of strides with that team, and he's just what Caleb needed, right? Because it's environment that matters. I mean, Mahomes is Mahomes, but Mahomes can attribute, a certain amount of his success to Andy Reid as well. So everybody needs some help. Nothing wrong with that. Caleb still got a long way to go. I know everybody's pretty hard on J.J. McCarthy after last week. Just some atrocious, losing quarterback gets a lot of that run on that one. Just really atrocious misses. We'll kind of get into that, maybe some reasons why he's missing so badly. But Caleb, both quarterbacks actually finished 50% completion rate, which is very below average NFL standard. So we'll see. But Pittsburgh, had it not been for their defense last week, may not have been the team that, or may not have won last week. So we'll see. I mean, so it's, got Mason Rudolph coming in. You've got Aaron Rodgers played a little bit. Mason Rudolph hadn't been getting any snaps, but obviously a veteran. But again, neither one looked too impressive. The offense didn't look impressive at all. I think Joe Flacco's arm was hurt, shoulder was still hurt, but it would have been an interesting game. But the defense made that look that final score look a lot more. A lot greater than it probably should. It's very misleading.
Absolutely. So before we move on, what's your guess on the game?
Oh, yeah. It's kind of part of the deal, right? Yeah, sorry about that. My guess on this one is I've got Chicago 3.5, and I've got a total at 43.5.
Okay. I've got Chicago 2.5 with the total at 45.
Yeah, when I made the guess, I was not expecting Aaron to play. I think that's trending toward it, so I kind of see where that's happening now.
Definitely.
So that makes sense at all, and that makes sense. But again, I'm not really impressed right now with the Steelers' offense.
Yep. What do you think of the Steelers' defense? I mean, they're kind of an interesting deal this year. Really high paid, and they've looked poor first couple games, but they look great last week. So
yeah, I mean, again, I think the Steelers looked better offensively and defensively last week, but I think it was because of the Bengals. The Bengals do not have a good offensive line, okay? And the Steelers certainly took advantage of that, added a lot more pressures last week. And as far as the defense getting pressure or the offensive line looking better last week, is because Trey Hendrickson and Shamar Stewart were out for Cincinnati. So that made I think PFF had the Steelers, the 6th-rated offensive line this past week, completely misleading on this one. So I don't really put a lot of stock in last week. It's again still an offensive lead, still takes points to, on the board to actually win the game. And Pittsburgh's offense is really bad. And, right now I don't trust Caleb either, but I trust Ben Johnson and that team. So again, we'll be waiting to see how this one plays out on this. But kind of an ugly game. I think there are probably better games for me to bet than this one. Any final thoughts on this one before we move on?
I got nothing else on this one.
Yeah, just FYI on this one, no weather on this one. Obviously, the first game we didn't cover that because it's in a dome. But Pittsburgh, Chicago, 47 degrees, slight chance of rain, winds non-factor at 9 miles an hour, so not really a big deal at all.
Okay.
All right. Move in on to the next game. Next game is New England at Cincinnati. I have got this game. My guess on this game was New England. I've got them at 5.5 and 49.
Okay. Current odds are it's Cincy plus 7.5 and totals 50.5.
Okay. So high. So 7.5. So that'd be 10.5 on neutral, and that'd be 13.5 on a home field. So to me, that seems a little high, especially with potential that Joe Flacco was limited in practice and Joe Burrow was full practice today. Not at all. So I just, for me, that's why I guess the line what I did. I think 7.5 is a little high. We'll probably see that come down if you think Joe Burrow is going to play. But Jamar Chase is being out because obviously he spit on Jalen Ramsey. Oh, stupid. I'm so tired of that trend. I mean, it's only happened a couple times, but maybe 3 times this year. But I'm like, freaking grow up,
Yeah, I feel like you should get more than one game.
I totally agree. You're not going to stop this till you make an example out of it. And I think I'm 100% with you on that.
Okay. Any other thoughts on this one? I mean, the high, it's a lot of points, but
yeah, I'm checking weather real quick on this one.
Well, I guess the question I have is, do you really think Burrow is going to play? I mean, everything said he was going to play Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I do. I do think he's going to play.
Wow.
I think he's just ultra competitive, and I think that he probably will. Be my guess, and I think Joe Flacco is hanging on by a string.
So I got a question. If Burrow is playing, what do you think the line would move to? Back down to 5.5?
Well, that's why I guess at 5.5. I think you probably get 2 more points of value on this one, potentially, because I just think that feels a little bit more right. I do think that without Chase being there, it's a limiting factor. But New England is really, really strong. I mean, it just depends on the injury report, how Cincinnati is going to be, and who they've got coming back on the defensive side. Taylor Britt, I think, is out for the year. I mean, Cincinnati's pretty banged up right now, so I know I'm kind of waffling back and forth, but I again kind of guess the lines, try not to really discuss it till we come on here live. This is really my first take on the lines this week, but I'll pay close attention to that injury report come Friday and see what's going on. Last week, Joe Flacco was limited practice on Wednesday, did not practice on Thursday, and then limited again on Friday. So if he's limited again on Friday and Joe Burrow's still full practice, I would expect Joe to go. But again, he's got to have some help around him as well. So we'll see. This game is 52 degrees, slight chance of rain, 3 miles an hour. So again, nothing really bad. People are going to get lucky this time of year. And also on that Ravens game, didn't cover that one as well. Weather, 53, partly cloudy, 5-mile-an-hour wind. So really nothing at all to worry about weather-wise. I'm kind of going down the board right now.
Okay.
And I don't even think we're going to cover anything else because there's just really no issues with wind. There is not even a game that's below something in the 40s. So it's just not that big of a deal this week. And really the rain chances are pretty low as well. So should be a pretty clean game, all considered. So
sure.
let's just keep moving. This one is next one is the Giants at Detroit. Giants 2-9, covered the spread against Green Bay. I think if Jackson Dart played, that they probably not only cover but probably win. I feel like Green Bay's really struggling just to kind of figure out who they are right now. And then Detroit, of course, took it on the chin. 0-5 fourth downs. They're 6-4, 0-5 on fourth downs against the Eagles on Sunday night. I just an interesting deal there. Ben Johnson looked like he, was the heart and soul of that team because they don't look like the same team this year. I think they probably have the best roster in the NFC and maybe in the entire NFL, but offensively, and we'll kind of get into that. But let me guess the line. My guess is Detroit 9.5, and I got a total at 49.
Okay. I've got Detroit 10.5 with the total at 50. So pretty close there on the total, and 10.5, get an extra point there.
Yep. Look, Jackson Dart is trending toward playing this week. So that'll be a big lift for the Giants. But will it be enough against this Detroit team? I mean, I think everybody comes in and expects Detroit to blow them out. And quite candidly, the line's fairly reasonable where they could. This is a matchup that does favor Detroit. Detroit gets pressure on the edges, not on the interior. And the interior is what is Jared Goff's kryptonite, right? So I think the line's probably fairly about right on this one. Let's see. The Giants defense is just pretty bad. I mean, look, I was kind of looking it up this week. It's like per over the cap. This team has spent 135 million on its defense, the second highest mark in the NFL, which is the complete opposite of the Rams and the Eagles, who are one of the lowest spends this year. Yet the defense, obviously blew another late lead against Packers. It's it looks bad. I mean, I would say that their defensive coordinator, I believe his name's Shane Bowen. I believe he's probably going to be looking for another place of employment. But look, I've said this about Detroit from the very beginning. I said it from the very beginning, with the first of the year, is that, look, what I saw is that I was curious about, I said in the preseason, actually, where I talked about when the Frickser and I got together and went through every division, is that will Detroit's offense have the creativity without Ben Johnson? And I was concerned. You're not really on the defensive side. And their defense is actually, with Kelvin Shepherd, if he's going to stay, I think he's going to get some big-time offers, maybe head coaching jobs, even in college. Some people have even linked him to LSU job. But the defense has actually taken a step up this year. Now, granted, they're not as injury-prone last year, but I like the brand of defense that Kelvin Shepherd's playing. However, my concern was I heard Johnny Morton in a press conference before the season, and he's kind of rah-rah guy like Dan Campbell, where Ben Johnson was kind of the yin to his yang, and he was more the intellectual, and he was, this guy who's really, really, really sharp, and that creativity. Where Dan Campbell was more the CEO, the rah-rah guy. I heard Johnny Morton talk, and he was more the rah-rah guy, and I'm like, I'm not sure that's going to work. And clearly, 2 games ago, that play calling duty got taken off. Dan Campbell is doing the best he can, but he still doesn't have the creativity. And I written down in my notes, I written down the first of the year, it's week 2, and I put, this team struggles against good defenses in the red zone. And that's where the trouble is. You can get from 20 to 20. Most teams can get there fairly easy, but can you score? It's kind of the old adage if people play golf, you drive for show and putt for dough. And it's kind of that way in the NFL. You drive between the 20s for show, but the final 20, the red zone, is for the dough and for the win. And that's where Detroit struggles, and that's their Achilles heel, and that's going to keep them from winning this year in the playoffs because they're going to have to replace that coordinator. I know that it's a big learning experience for Dan Campbell, and I'm sure he feels bad about it. But he'll replace that. He knows what he needs, but he's wasting a really, really good roster today. Or this year. So we'll see how it goes. I just don't trust Detroit with any big spread. I may change my mind by Sunday, but right now that seems like a lot of points, even against the Giants.
Definitely.
Any thoughts on that game?
No, I don't. I haven't watched a lot of the Giants this year. And yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with Detroit. They can't finish in the red zone, and that's why they're 6-4. And Ben Johnson's a big loss.
What is, and here's the deal: is that Jared Goff. I see a comment by Jick Jack. Hey, Carl, thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. Thanks, brother. Good luck to you as well. Appreciate whatever you're doing for the community as well. Other comments said you didn't miss Indianapolis at Kansas City. No, you did not. We just started. So that'll be good. The one thing about Jared Goff is that Ben Johnson knew, and I know that Dan Campbell knows as well, but when pressured, Jared Goff has a QBR of 9. I mean, that's 9. That's single digit. It's one of the worst of any quarterbacks out there. And Ben Johnson knew the creativity of using play action and also roll in the pocket in favor for Jared. Had a lot of misdirection for him to keep him away from pressure. And that's not what Ben Johnson, or that's not what Dan Campbell's doing. Dan Campbell had him back there on critical downs where didn't even have play action, didn't even have a running back there. So they could just tee off on him, and therefore he had the most batted balls in any game this year because the defense could just tee off and just raise their hand, and they knew what was coming. And Jared Goff's a statue, so he's just sitting back there. So, the play calling's just not doing Jared Goff any favors this year. And look, Jared Goff, stand-up guy. After that, he put it all on himself, said it's his fault and everything. It's not his fault. It's Dan Campbell's fault for not getting the right offensive coordinator. Not that you can replace Ben Johnson that easy, because Ben Johnson's don't go on freeze. Ben Johnson's already one of the best coaches in the NFL. I get it. But you got to have somebody more creative than Johnny Morton. You just got to do it. And now you got to have somebody more creative than Dan Campbell as well.
Absolutely. All right, what's next?
Your Minnesota Vikings, 4-6, coming off a last-second loss to Chicago at Green Bay, which escaped New York, kind of like Quinnen Williams did. But he escaped the Jets of New York. So anyway, I've got on this one, I've got Green Bay 7.5, and I've got 43.
Okay. Current, it's Green Bay 6.5 with the total at 41.
Pretty close. Not real surprised. Well, you're the Minnesota guy. What are your thoughts on JJ?
I think JJ doesn't make quick decisions. And I think he forces passes, and he just doesn't have control of the offense. And so for me, I kind of lump him in with Justin Fields and some of these other quarterbacks where it's just you don't know what you're going to get when they show up. And there's just not a lot of consistency there. And, yeah, I don't think he's the future at QB in purple and gold.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, this is essentially his rookie year, but, I mean, Kevin O'Connell went all in on this guy. You had Daniel Jones and you had, Sam Darnold in the building, and you let them both go.
Yep.
So this
and Rodgers too. And Rodgers was looking at the Vikings too in the offseason.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I don't blame him for that, just because there was a lot of history with Rodgers and not being that great in the locker room. And I can understand him like, hey, we've got this great team and everything. But looking back now, I think they both wish they'd made better decisions. And I know Rodgers wished he was on Minnesota, and probably Minnesota wishes he was there as well, because clearly looks like JJ could use another year of sitting and learning, because he is just not there. JJ has each game he has one good quarter, and after that it's just bad. Like, he didn't have one single completion in the second half against the Bears until that final drive. I mean, it was had an off-target rate of 32%, which is below his normal. His normal off-target rate is 22% of his passes, which is 38th among 39 qualifying quarterbacks. That's bad. I mean, it's really, really, really bad. And he was even worse against Chicago. So, and the off-target rate, where it wasn't just – so I think that's where people are like, well, Caleb was 50% too, but that's why people are just hammering JJ, because his off-target were just egregious. And if you look at it, it's his – and I've gone back and watched that game against Chicago, and his mechanics are bad. He's what you call as a quarterback, you need to be a rotational thrower. You need to swing here at the hips and rotate. And he's more of a vertical thrower, where he's got his back leg straight, and he's just slinging it like this. And you need to actually have your left shoulder up when you throw the ball, so you can have some air under it. And so that's what, because everything comes out with him as a fastball. It's a fastball, and it's on a straight line. And that helped him at the end zone when he threw to Jordan Addison to get that touchdown there in the fourth quarter. Or one of his two touchdowns in the fourth quarter. But he's mechanically really screwed up. And that's not going to change. It's not going to change this game. It's not going to change. You're not going to fix that till really the end of the year, because it's a problem, and that's what makes him throw off target, and that's what also those, it's hard to demonstrate, here, but but that's what makes him throw off target and also throw on a beeline. And you're not going to fix that during the season, and there's no need replacing him because he just needs reps at this point, and you're just going to have to ride it out. But again, what a tough deal for Vikings fans, because this is a roster that's built to win the Super Bowl, and it's a shame. But we'll see how it's going to be like next year. But that's kind of how I see it. But then you look at Green Bay. And Green Bay doesn't know who they are. And you kind of wonder, everybody kind of comes down on LaFleur and blames him because all he wants to do is run the ball. And it's almost like you hear that sentiment about, when Russ was in Seattle, it's like, let Russ cook. And, they're like, Pete Carroll's the one holding him back. And it turns out Pete Carroll was actually protecting him from himself, because if you let Russ cook, everybody would know that Russ was kind of washed and not very good at the time. And you kind of wonder that about LaFleur, is that not that Love is washed and Love is uber talented, but there's some things that you wonder if he's trying to keep the guardrails on Love, because he's got too much Favre in him, but he's not as talented as Favre. But he will just sling it, and he'll throw it in triple coverage and won't think twice about it. And I know LaFleur wants to run, but his interior of the line is not as good as he wished it were. They made a trade in off season of guards, not really working out. And, Josh Jacobs looks, another thing that people need to watch out for this week is that if Josh Jacobs is going to come back and play, it looks like he might play, but check out that injury report on Friday. Make sure that he's full practice on Friday and is going to play before you bet Green Bay, because looks like Jackson Dart will play this week, and Jackson Dart is the real deal. He's really, really, really good, and hopefully Mike Kafka can save him, the new interim coach for the Giants, can save him from running so much and hurting himself. So, again, this is a game I'm really interested in watching. I'm not sure if I have a ton of interest in betting it, at least not yet. We'll see how the injury reports play out. Any final thoughts before we move on?
I got nothing else on that one.
Okay, this is the game that Tyler had mentioned in the comments. Tyler's talking about Indianapolis and Kansas City. Indianapolis coming off a bye, 8-2 at Kansas City, 5-5. Who would have thought that coming off a loss against Denver? I certainly did, because I had Denver as one of my picks in the notebook, and I also had the under in that game as my best bet on that game, and also had that as my strongest pick in my Average Joe contest. So, look, this is an interesting game. I mean, Andy Reid since 2013 is 2-4 against Indianapolis straight up. So this hasn't been a really good matchup, or at least in the past. Obviously different teams, different coaches, that he's faced. So Shane Steichen will be a different coach for him as well. But it'll be interesting to see how this is going. I've got this one. My guess is at 3.5. I gave a half. I felt the game probably should be at 3, but I gave 3.5 because I thought the public would. Kansas City's still a public team. I've got it at 3.5, and I've got 47.5 on this one. What do you got?
I got 3.5, so right on the money there, and the total at 50.5.
Not surprised. These two teams should score. I'm sure Kansas City will, and Indianapolis will. I think that these two teams will go up and down the field. Will they get 50.5? I think they'll be pretty close to that. So I'll certainly look at that total, check the health of everybody as we go into the game to make sure everything's rolling around. But, it's a tough deal for this. This Kansas City team, just as kind of a different deal. Patrick Mahomes, home and road this season is completely different. Mahomes is 4-1, not against the spread, just straight up at home, but 1-4 on the road. So he certainly plays a lot better. On the road, Patrick Mahomes has 4 TDs and 3 interceptions. At home, he has 14 TDs and 3 interceptions. So definitely a lot more comfortable at home, plays a lot better. Passer rating, 113 at home, 81 on the road. Kansas City is the second most efficient scoring offense in the NFL. Number 1 is Indianapolis. So I think this could really be the game of the day. This could be a fun game. Could be a high-scoring game. Completely should be a kind of a fun game. Any thoughts on this game for you?
Yeah, I just think Kansas City's been battle tested. Their last 2 games. I think they're going to cover. That's just how I see it. I mean, you're right. I mean, Mahomes is a lot better at home, and I mean, who's Indy really played? I mean, that's kind of my knock on them. Indy has,
Indy's beaten Miami. They beat Denver. They've beaten at Tennessee. They've beaten Las Vegas. They've beaten at Los Angeles Chargers, and they've beaten Tennessee. So not great teams, but a couple of good teams. They've lost to I'm sorry, that's against the spread. My bad. They've beaten Miami. They've beaten Denver. They've beaten at Tennessee, Las Vegas. They've beaten Arizona. They've beaten the Chargers. They've beaten Tennessee. They've beaten, obviously, the last game, Atlanta and Berlin. 2 teams they've lost to. They've lost to the Rams. They've lost to Pittsburgh. In those games, they've turned the ball over a lot. And against the Rams in particular, they had the Rams beat, and they got beat at the last second. And A.D. Mitchell, who got traded to the Jets, had he not clowned around, and this was his last game with them, essentially, not last game with them, but last game that he actually played, dropped the ball before he going in the end zone, and that would have sealed the game. So they would have beaten the Rams for that. So, you beat the teams in front of you. You beat the teams on your schedule, and you have to play. And so, that's what it is. I mean, we'll look at the Chiefs. The Chiefs have beaten the Giants. They've beaten that was the game where Lamar went down early, beaten Baltimore at home. They've beaten Detroit at home. We've already talked about Detroit's struggles, right? In the red zone. Detroit's great roster, bad offensive play caller, and their struggles are there. They've beaten Las Vegas and they beat Washington. So can't say I'm too impressed with who Kansas City's beaten this year. They've lost to the Chargers in Brazil to open up. They've lost to Philadelphia. They've lost at Jacksonville. They lost at Buffalo. They lost at Denver. So all the teams they've lost to have been good teams, and they beat kind of teams that have kind of been marginal to bad.
Yeah. Well, I guess my other question would be, do you really believe in Indy, as like a Super Bowl pick? I mean, I can't see Daniel Jones winning a Super Bowl. I just that can't register in my brain properly.
Well, I don't think that they're going to, but I think Shane Steichen's going to be a lot better. Indy was my surprise pick in the preseason, that they would actually win this division because, everybody in the entire NFL has told me everything good, privately, and I've heard it publicly, that Shane Steichen is unbelievable. He's a really, really good coach, and they've got a good roster. Their roster is really good. I think they're a little too much. Their running back. Their running back is Jonathan Taylor. They're a little bit too much Jonathan Taylor centric. Jonathan Taylor has the second most touches in the league, which is only behind Christian McCaffrey, which is something to watch on both those teams, because you got to feel when you're running that engine so hard, they're gonna blow a gasket at some point, and if they do, that's gonna kill their chances. You kind of feel like one of those teams is going to do that, just like Christian McCaffrey had his most touches he's had, or most carries he's had 2 years ago. And of course, last year he was injured. Kind of the way it works with running back. When you put so much mileage on the tires, the next year could potentially be rough. So hopefully those guys will stay healthy. We'll see how this goes. Kansas City is a good team, but they're aged, and the great thing that Indianapolis has going for them right now is that Indianapolis didn't pay Daniel Jones. He's not making that big money. Patrick Mahomes, unlike Tom Brady, Tom Brady chose greatness and immortality because he didn't take the money. And he's like, look, I know I'm not the most talented quarterback, but I'm one of the best in the world ever at pre-snap, and I will study film all day long, all night long. It doesn't matter, and I will be the best because of that. I will over-prepare and do that. So I feel a lot like Tom Brady because I will outwork anybody. I feel the kind of same way. And Mahomes, he chose his talents, but he chose the paycheck over immortality. And this is what happened because his team is old. Chris Jones is a step slow this year. Travis Kelce, used to block about 6 games a year. Now he won't block at all. And so it's a different team now for Kansas City because they're older. They just don't have a lot of players in their prime. And this is what happens to teams that pay your quarterbacks and you have some holes after that. You just are not the same team and you kind of give up some things. And Patrick Mahomes tries to do it all himself. His offensive line's not very good because of that. And then teams start stacking the box and said, okay, we're going to force Mahomes to beat us deep. And Mahomes is not a very good deep ball thrower. And so that's kind of where you get into this. So it's I understand what you're saying about being battle tested, and yes, he is, but this is not the same team that it was last year. And this Kansas City team has to win this game. If they win this game, they got about a 65% chance of just making the playoffs. If they lose this game, Kansas City's got a 36% chance of making the playoffs. It goes down precipitously. So this is a big game. This is a must-win for Kansas City. So if they're going to do this, if they're going to cover, this is the game they're going to do it. So I understand where you're going that way. I just don't have faith in them. And then they're another one of these teams that play a short week. They play in 4 days after this game. They play on Thanksgiving Day at Dallas. So it'll be an interesting game, and we'll see. We'll see.
All righty, what's up next?
Moving on, we're going to go Seattle 7-3. Tough loss against the Rams. Did everything they could to lose the game, and almost had a chance of winning at the end. At Tennessee, 1-9. Tennessee played. Who did Tennessee play? Tennessee played Houston. Thank you very much. Yeah, close game. Tennessee's got a great defense. They just kind of wear out in the second half. I have got this game at Seattle minus. I've got a -9, which even made me uncomfortable. And I've got it 41.5.
Okay. I'm seeing Seattle -13.5. And I've got 40.5. That's crazy. Yeah.
So that means that Seattle neutral field 16.5 and Seattle at home is 19.5.
Yep. It's a lot of points.
Vegas, I'm just looking at these lines and shaking my head. Vegas is begging you to take these favorites this weekend. And you're going to get slaughtered. Absolutely. They may cover, but man, this makes me nervous. All these games. I mean, Seattle, Sam Darnold. But this is a game. I'll kind of show the counterpoint that this is the game that Sam Darnold wins, right? Because Sam Darnold chokes in the big games. Okay, you've seen it last year with Minnesota versus the Rams. This year versus Minnesota with the Rams. You just you also saw it last year in the exciting season finale against Detroit, where he choked in the big games. This is not the game where Darnold chokes. So I'm kind of walking this back now because I'm thinking about this at the same time. So I could see Darnold actually doing well against this, and Tennessee is just kind of a mess. Tennessee's, I think, got a lock on the first place. We can go into Darnold's struggles, but Darnold again. I'm not worried about Darnold in this game. It's the games that are the big games where Darnold tightens up and throws interceptions. So, I guess I'm kind of going back and forth. This is one game where the spread, I'd have to really warm up to it. 13.5 is a lot of points, but I could certainly see this one happening because this is a game where Darnold he doesn't have the pressure on him. Any thoughts on this game before we move on?
I don't have any thoughts, but I'm interested to see what happens. I mean, yeah, you're right. It's a lot of points.
A lot of points.
All righty.
We'll move on. First afternoon game, 4:05 game. Jacksonville at Arizona. Jacksonville coming off a straight demolishing of the Chargers at home. I had Jacksonville in that one. It was one of my favorite plays. Not only covered, but won in a big way. I think it's 35-6. Arizona 3-7. Jacoby Brissett had a record-tying game in that one, but still not good enough for a lot of reasons we'll talk about here. My guess on this one is that I've got Arizona favored by 1, and I've got a total of 47.5.
Okay, Arizona 1. It's currently Arizona 3 +3, and total at 47.5.
Okay, so that line is total. I'm right on, but and 3-3 is not much of not much of a big deal. But I've got Arizona ±1. We will see how that one goes. Arizona's injury report again still matters. That's where that's going to be, and see what's happening there. This is a game where Jacksonville could be a little bit overvalued potentially. Again, I'll have to kind of dig into it just because the public remembers what they see last game and they're like, oh, Jacksonville's on fire. And again, they beat a Chargers team without Joe Alton. Obviously, the Chargers didn't even show up for that game. And, man, you heard Jim Harbaugh's press conference and you kind of felt bad for him because he's just like, we just kind of got beat every way physically. He just looked kind of whipped. We'll see how that one comes out on this one. Let's see. Jacksonville 6-4 against the spread, and it just varies, who they play, and it's no rhyme or reason. It's almost week by week. Let's see. The one thing I did notice about Jacksonville, I had written down in my notes, is that as I watch these games, I take notes on these games. Is that you notice that Liam Cohen has kind of figured out who Trevor Lawrence is, and Trevor Lawrence is a coach killer. And he's like, okay, I'm going to treat him like the Eagles treat Jalen Hurts and have him be the game manager. But the more Jalen Hurts throws, the worse the Eagles do. Like the Eagles win absurd winning percentage when Jalen Hurts throws 23 passes or under. But when Jalen Hurts throws like 27 passes and over, it's almost guaranteed a loss. And that's kind of the way it is with Jacksonville as well, with Trevor. Is that Liam Cohen figured out what the other coaches didn't, and stopped even though Trevor's uber talented, he's not putting in the work that the other quarterbacks are. Doesn't hang out with his teammates afterwards. His wife's like, you got to be home. And so he's just like runs home and doesn't hang out with his team, doesn't build that camaraderie, that chemistry. And so they're running the ball. And that's exactly what they did. So against the Chargers. I don't even think that. Let's see. I can't even remember what I looked at the stats wise, but I just don't think Trevor threw that much at all. So it was a low percentage of what Trevor threw, and that may be their formula for winning. Arizona, on the other hand, Jacoby Brissett threw 47 or 57. I mean, 47 completions, that tied a record, but they still managed to lose by 19 points, and it was mainly because of their of them being penalized. I think they got penalized. I wrote it down, or at least I thought I did. Yeah, they had 17 penalties for 130 yards. Look, that's just not a good look, especially for Jonathan Gannon. You kind of feel like that he's on his last leg here, even though Kyler Murray has also been a coach killer there. You can't have 17 penalties, not in year 4. You can't have 17 penalties, and you can't do this. So for me, this game will be interesting. I don't know if it's one I'm going to be interested in betting on, because I'm not super impressed with Jacksonville, and Arizona can be frisky at times. So we'll see. I'll check injury reports. A lot of times that dictates where I go on Friday when I see injury reports pop up. Any thoughts on this one before we move on?
No, we can move on. Okay,
we're going to run, unfortunately, right into another game. These 4:00 games this week are not good. This next one is Cleveland 2-8 at Las Vegas 2-7.
Yep.
I'm sorry, Las Vegas is 2-8 as well.
The Shadir game.
Do what?
Shadir starting. I think.
Yeah.
There's a lot of eyes for that reason on this game.
Yeah, 100%. I've got this one. I got Vegas at 3.5, and I've got a total at 37.
Okay, you're right on the side. It's 3.5 for Vegas, and the total is 36. Just a shade lower.
Yep. Again, not surprised at all. There are some props that I'll probably list in this game that I like, that I think will be good props to go with. But focusing on the game itself, look, well, this is going to be an ugly game. I think. I mean, it's not going to be this may not be a fun game worth watching. But to your point, there's going to be some eyes on it because of Shadur. But Shadur's just not very accurate. I'd say actually Shadur is accurate. He was accurate in college. But this is what I was told this week. I was told that by someone inside the Browns organization that the plan was never to play Shadur this entire year, because Shadur, they were counting on this being a redshirt year for Shadur. I've also been told, I was also told this week, is that Shadur is lazy, and he's plenty smart enough, but he's just not putting in the work, and he doesn't know the playbook. So that's why they hadn't really played him, and that's why he has been inactive in some games as well, and we've been frustrated with him. Will Shadur, live up to his potential, or does he just want to be a game time guy? Like, look, I mean, it's, there are plenty of guys out there that were phenomenal in college. We can kind of go through the list. We talk about Johnny Manziel, even Trevor Lawrence. He's not the partier and the attention guy, but again, you can be the best athlete on the field in college. A lot of these guys were, but when you come to NFL, you're just a guy, and you gotta put in the work. And so far, they haven't seen that from Shadur, and that's the problem. But that being said, do you trust him, to make the plays this week. He was under a lot of pressure last week by Myles Garrett. Guess what? Merry Christmas. You get Max Crosby this week. So I don't know. It's a coin flip. Any thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I think I'm going to play Vegas and just go against rookie quarterback making his first start. But yeah, I mean, Vegas is not good.
Well,
Geno is terrible.
Here's a good stat for you guys. Browns quarterbacks in their first NFL starts in the last 30 seasons. So fair number data. Browns have gone through some quarterbacks in the last 30 seasons. They are 0-17 straight up in their very first start, and they are 4-13 against the spread. And Cleveland just also happens to be an 0-10 against the spread in their last 10 road games.
Yep. Yeah, I bet there's a lot of survivor picks going on the Raiders.
That's
risky.
It's going to be a sweat either way, but I mean, there's just some interesting stats just to take with you.
All right, that's all I got on that game.
Let's move on. All right, let's move on to another game that I think could be very interesting. We talked about Indianapolis, Kansas City as the game of the day. I do think that there's going to be one or two of these high spread games that are going to be I think there are going to be some outright upsets this week. So we'll say that. But let's get back to this one. I think another game of the day, Philadelphia at Dallas. Philadelphia 8-2 coming off the Monday night win or the Sunday night win versus Detroit. And then Dallas coming off the Monday night win at 4-5-1 versus Vegas. Certainly was an emotional game for them playing for Marshawn Nealon. And had a lot of great stats. 4 people did score different touchdowns, but again, it's the Raiders. So I've got this game. I've got the Eagles at 2.5, and I've got the total at 46.
Okay, it's Eagles minus 3.5, total at 47.5.
Okay, so pretty close to that. It'll be interesting to see how this one goes. Dallas, Quinnen Williams, Kenny Walker looked phenomenal. Got Overshown back. I mean, they look like a better defense, at least kind of their front seven. Their corners are still suspect. We'll see how that's going to be. And then the biggest news of all, I think that concerns me on this game, but for the Eagles, is Lane Johnson out. The Eagles are 5-9, or Jalen Hurts is 5-9 without Lane Johnson starting. He's probably the best right tackle in the game. Maybe the best tackle right or left in the game. He's phenomenal. It's kind of a lockdown guy, and him out is a big deal. And this is a game where if people remember, this is a game initially at Philadelphia at first of the year that Dallas should have won that game. But what are your thoughts on this game?
It's going to be a fun game. I mean, Dallas looks a lot better. Granted, they played Vegas, so it's hard to judge that win. But yeah, it's always fun to watch Philly play Dallas. I mean, it's a good matchup, and I just don't really believe in the Eagles personally. I feel like they're a bit overrated, even though they've won every game, all these big games. Kansas City, they beat Detroit. I just don't think they're as good as everyone thinks. And to your point, missing their right tackle, that's a big loss.
It's certainly a problem. I mean, this is, I've written down at the first of the year. I put comments. I track the spreads, track one-score games, track over and unders, trends like that, to see where things are going, and just kind of data of, to see if something sticks out to me. And at the very first of the year, with the one-score games, Kansas City was 11-0, right? Obviously, last year in one-score games. This year, Kansas City's 0-5, right? And this team this year, they played 10 games, and 8 of those have been one-score games. And in my in my notes, I put this feels like Kansas City last year because the Eagles are 7-1 against the spread on this one. And so they kind of, you just kind of feel like this is a divisional game. Eagles offense, they have a slow pace of play. This is going to be a grinded out type game. Dallas's offense looked good the other night, but again, looked good against the Raiders. How will they look against the Eagles? I'm not sure. Again, this feels like a one-score game, and right now those are kind of going the Eagles' way. I'm not convinced the Eagles are that team. Again, feels like Kansas City, like they're going to get beat out in the playoffs, just kind of like Kansas City did last year. Maybe the NFC Championship games probably looks like they may be facing the Rams right now, although the Rams put some players on IR today. That was interesting. But I'm with you. I just don't feel like they are. This game's 3.5, which means it'd be 6.5 on a neutral. That means they'd be 9.5 on home field for the Eagles against Dallas. Feels really heavy as far as that line. But do I have enough strength to bet on Dallas versus
it's hard going against Philly when they're covering all these spreads. I mean,
agreed. Yeah, totally agree. Dallas is 1-2-1 in one-score games, and they're 3-6 against the spread. So not really good. While the Eagles are 7-3 against the spread. So, obviously one team's covering, one team's not. So you kind of look at that. All right. Any final thoughts before we move on from this game?
I got nothing else. Yeah, should be a good game.
Yeah. And it's the only game really in that 4:00 window because at 4:25, guess who we've got? We've got Atlanta at New Orleans.
Yikes.
I mean, what a horrible afternoon schedule. I mean, it's not horrible as fact that, for us that as far as the gambling community, because we've always got, we always can make things interesting no matter what the game. But for the community, I feel sorry for people that don't bet because the afternoon's going to be horrible for them. So I've got this one, Atlanta 3-7, and coming off a bye, last loss against in a very close game versus Indianapolis in Berlin. New Orleans, of course, they were on a bye last week as well, I think. Were they? Did they play last week?
No, they did not.
Yeah, they were on a bye. All right. So on a bye, they're 2-8. So I've got this one. I've got New Orleans 1.5, and I got a total of 43.
Okay. You're right on the money. It's New Orleans 1.5. Total is 39.5, so a little lower there. But...
I'm off on that one.
Yeah.
Okay. Look, these NFC South games are typically high scoring, but you got Kirk Cousins and Taylor Shook or Tyler. Is it Tyler Shook? Yeah. Just kind of an odd game. Atlanta is 5-5 against the spread. New Orleans is 3-7 against the spread. So neither one of them are that impressive. I just, this is a Kirk Cousins led team this week. I would check the injury report, see if Drake London. I don't think he's playing.
I think he's out.
Yeah, I think he's out. So I can certainly see why the total is what it is, because when I guessed, it was kind of right after the game. It was Sunday night when I was up after all this week while everything's fresh in my mind. And so I think that news came out after I chose these lines. But I certainly see why it's lower scoring, but that's not typical of the NFC South games. Those are typically over totals, but this could be the exception. Any thought on this game? Because I don't know if I want to spend a whole lot of time on it.
No thoughts.
Yeah. We kind of.
I guess maybe one thing. We think that Tyler Shook. I mean,
look,
better than Rattler, but
I liked him. I am. That's the reason why. One of the reasons why I'm really most interested in watching this game, because look, if New Orleans can say, hey, this guy here is going to be a quarterback for us, because I like Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore is a good offensive coordinator. This team's played well under him. This team hasn't quit. They haven't given up. And Tyler Shough looks like I thought he looked really good in his last performance, his first starter as a starter since he was benched and brought back out, but against Carolina. And I thought he looked really good. I thought Bryce Young looked like crap that game. Looked like I would have released Bryce Young after that game. Not really, but it felt like it because he was just terrible. But I thought Shough did really well. I thought he had a couple long passes that he was right on target with. I'm interested to see what he looks like in this game. And that's why I had them favored in this game. And that's why I won't be surprised at all if they actually cover in this game, because Kirk Cousins doesn't look accurate, doesn't look like the same guy, where Shough looks like good. Even though he's an older quarterback, I think he's 27, which is typically not what you want to take as a quarterback because, you don't really have time to develop them. They're almost at their, it takes them 3 to 4 years to, really kind of come into their own and develop that. But, your prime your athletic prime is around 29. So he won't reach his mental and athletic peak at the same time in NFL terms. So I'm not sure he's a long-term answer, but I like the way he looked last game. So leave it at that. Let's move on to Sunday night. Really interesting game. Tampa 6-4 versus the Rams 8-2. Tampa coming off a really tough loss to Buffalo. Game went back and forth till there was a 4th down in the 4th quarter, and Todd Bowles, the defensive head coach, just again shows why you should have more of an offensive head coach, because he chose to punt it in a game that was going back and forth instead of going for it. And, that was unfortunate because that call probably cost them the opportunity to win in that game. The Rams 8-2 coming off a phenomenal win versus Seattle at home, the kind of battle of the AFC West or the NFC West. The Rams, interesting though. I had Seattle in the game, and I was proud to have that ticket, but that was an interesting game. Seattle had 4 turnovers, which cost them the game, and only ended up losing for 2 and had a shot to win at the end. So, but this game has created a lot of buzz around the defensive coordinator for the Rams, Chris Shula. For some of the OGs out there, like myself, you remember Don Shula, who coached the perfect season for the Miami Dolphins. This is his grandson, and a lot of people are saying that he's going to get some looks. And so this offseason for jobs, and I think there's going to be several jobs open this year. Typically about 6 to 8 jobs open in the NFL. I think it's going to be on the higher end this year. This game, I've got the Rams favored by 7, and I've got a total of 49.
Okay. It's Rams 6.5, total at 49.5. So just a half point off on both. But
yeah, I just kind of see this again. Tampa Bay's injury report. Look, Baker has a tough time right now because, you had last game, you had, receivers out, you had Bucky Irvin out, you're down to your 3rd string running back. Sean Tucker obviously showed out against Buffalo, but Buffalo's got a terrible defense, run defense, which we kind of discussed a little bit earlier. But but Baker, he realizes he has to do this, all himself. His quarterback rating actually goes down. His interceptions, had a couple of interceptions in this game as well, in the last game, that didn't do him any favors. But, this will be an interesting game. Will the Rams come out? Will this be kind of a carry on from last game, or was last game kind of an emotional game that this game they kind of come down to earth? Be Sunday night, should get the best out of both teams. It'll be fun. Tampa Bay's 5-5 against the spread. The Rams are 7-3. So kind of one game either way kind of did the difference for that. I don't know. What do you think about this game?
Should be a great game. I love the Rams. I think they can win the Super Bowl. And yeah, I mean, I think Bucky Irving's back, or, there's a chance he's going to play. So that will help a lot. 6.5. I like that a lot more than 7 from Tampa.
Yeah, I agree. 6.5 is a lot better than 7. I wouldn't like it at 7 either, but 7's kind of a no touch for me. 6.5 becomes interesting. But again, we'll see. Matt Stafford's had a lot of luck against Todd Bowles in the past. Todd Bowles tends to blitz. That's kind of his calling card. And Matt Stafford against the blitz, he'll just eat you alive. So it'll be an interesting game. We'll see what that line looks like on Sunday. I really don't bet till right before the game, but we'll look at that and see how it looks. Again, Stafford having an MVP type year and kind of well-deserved right now. The problem for the Rams right now is that always kind of scares you is their special teams. They've got, I don't think it's really even arguable at this point. They've got the worst special teams unit in the entire NFL. They're the only NFL team that doesn't have a punt return or a kickoff return for greater than 25 yards. They give up the worst kickoff and punt return yardage as well. So, I mean, that's kind of the equalizer that you kind of see in this game, that they give up a long punt return or a punt return for a touchdown or a kickoff return for a touchdown. They've tried to fix their field goal. They've replaced that. Hopefully that'll change, but you can kind of see where, if they get beat and if they end up tripping up over themselves in the playoffs or even before, it's going to be because of this unit.
Okay.
Final game it is Carolina at San Francisco. Carolina 6-5, San Francisco 7-4. Carolina coming behind that dramatic overtime win against Atlanta. San Francisco welcomed Brock Purdy back in true fashion, and he just absolutely crushed it. You could see why there was a lot of people were like, hey, why don't you just continue playing the hot hand Mac Jones and let him keep going? He looks great. And you brought Brock Purdy back, and you're like, oh, okay. I remember Brock Purdy, and I remember why he's here, And certainly George Kittle was glad to have him back. The two of those guys combined, they have a 141 passer rating when Brock Purdy throws to George Kittle, so they have a special connection. Every great quarterback has a special connection between a wide receiver. Certainly is what, you look at some of the wide receivers out there right now with like Jordan Love, who's his go-to guy. J.J. McCarthy has yet to develop any chemistry with Jordan Addison or with Justin Jefferson. So you see that Brock Purdy has this chemistry with George Kittle. It's a good one to have. He's one of the best tight ends of all time. Carolina, Bryce Young he did have his best game of his career against Atlanta, but Atlanta was down 2 cornerbacks, so I think that's a little bit misleading. San Francisco still has a bad defense. What Robert Saleh is doing, it kind of feels like what last year Aaron Glenn was trying to do with Detroit, there's so many injuries to do that. I've got this game I've got San Francisco at 7.5, and I've got a total of 49.
Okay. It's San Fran 7, and the total is 48.5.
Okay. Kind of about right where I thought it would be, at least. Any thoughts on this game of how you see this one playing out?
Had really feels like the Cardinals San Francisco game, in my opinion. I could see San Fran covering 7.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of 49 might see a lot of points, see San Francisco covered, and I can certainly see that. I'd certainly have to dig into it, but do you trust Carolina on the road? Carolina had 3 wins at home and then had 3 road wins. They were one at the Jets, at Green Bay, at Atlanta. They start off, they won Atlanta, home to Atlanta, home Miami, home Dallas. It's kind of reversed. Interesting. They start off the year, won 3 games at home, lost 3 games on the road. And then they've won 3 games at home or on the road, and they've lost 2 games at home. So now they're a better road team than they are a home team. And interesting thing about them, they're 5-1 5-1 in 1-score games as well. And they're also a good against the spread team. They're 7-4 against the spread. San Francisco also a good 1-score game. They're 4-1 on 1-score games, 6-5 against the spread. Let's see, 8-3 to the over for San Francisco, only 6-5 to the over on Carolina. Should be a fun game. I think this is a big game for Bryce Young. I think this is one of those games that, look, the 1-score games where they're 5-1, I think says a lot more about Dave Canales than it does Bryce Young. Dave Canales is considered a really good coach. And again, I think he's a little bit hamstrung. Sometimes it's quarterback, like Shane Steichen's been hamstrung with a quarterback or in the past with who he's had, and you expect him to come out. And I think the quarterback's in Jacksonville, but hamstrung with Trevor Lawrence. And I think that Dave Canales looks like he's a little bit hamstrung with Bryce Young. Bryce Young is small, can't make the throws or all of those. I think this is a big game for him. If they come out here and get totally waxed in this game, you could see Carolina shopping for a quarterback in the draft on this one. At least that's my thoughts. Any final thoughts on this game before we wrap it up?
I got nothing else on this game. Just, it'd be Carolina wins. I mean, they're in the playoff hunt, which is kind of crazy to say after watching Bryce Young last year. So that's hats off to Dave Canales. It shows he's a good coach, that he's got them at 6-5 right now. And if they can win, I mean, I would consider him up for coach of the year, up with Steichen.
Yeah, 100%. He's done it really well. I think that coach of the year probably is going to go to Shanahan out in San Francisco for what he's doing this year. Because what he's doing with what he's got is pretty amazing. But Steichen's had a good year. It's hard to do that. Sean Payton's had a good year. It's all gone really well. Well, hey guys, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you Saturday morning for Lock and Live. Really appreciate you guys joining us tonight. Listen, have a great evening, and we'll see you then. For Matt, who hosts and produces the show and also fills in for Sticks tonight, I'm Uncle Phil. Guys, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you guys. As always, guys, have a great week, and let's